in evaluating the strategic performance of an organization. We are going to look at 3 known models that we can employ for the evaluation of strategic performance so far as organizations are concerned. Now, the 3 main models we are going to look at are balance scorecard, performance pyramid, and Fitzgerald and Moon building block model. Balance scorecard, performance pyramid, and Fitzgerald and Moon building block model. These are the known models that we are going to look at as a way of measuring the strategic performance of an organization. You all bear with me that it is very imperative for organizations to do a critical assessment of their performance, so they will be able to understand which areas they need to improve and which areas they need to limit allocating resources so far as performance evaluation is concerned. It is very important that as an organization we know our strategic goals, what we want to achieve. Then, knowing what we want to achieve, then how do we ensure that we have been able to achieve what we want to achieve? And this cannot be done anyhow. It must be done with the use of certain frameworks and models. Like we said earlier on, that strategic case study is basically made up of models and frameworks. So we need to look at this or these models as they are very, very imperative in assessing strategic performance of an organization. So we'll quickly move on to the first one, which is balance scorecard. Balance scorecard. Look at the name. The name even suggests that here the strategic performance of an organization is going to be measured by looking at both financial and non-financial, by looking at both subjective and objective. So the reason for the balance scorecard, as it was coined by Kaplan and Norton some years back, somewhere in 1996, is a model that will help an organization or management to assess the strategic performance of the organization in both financial and non-financial. Because we know that organizations' performance can never be judged only on the financial metrics, but rather there are other relevant non-financial metrics that are also very, very important that we need to look at. So the balance scorecard can be used to measure performance in relation to long-term objectives. And we must also understand that it covers both financial and non-financial performance. I quite remember last 2 years or so, there was a question on balance scorecard where students of your caliber were asked to assess the evaluation of the organization's performance. So the question was asking them to assess the performance, the strategic performance of the organization using the balance scorecard. And here you were expected to tell us what balance scorecard is all about, what it involves, what are its benefits, and what are the components of the model. So if I'm an examiner, I expect you to tell me basically what the balance scorecard is all about and why balance scorecard is being used, that is its significance and all those kind of stuff. Then you go straight to tell me the various measures that can be used in measuring performance according to the balanced scorecard. So according to the balanced scorecard model, every organization's strategic performance can be measured, can be assessed, can be evaluated, can be judged based on these four perspectives. So the first perspective or the first area of assessing the strategic performance of an organization is on the customer perspective or customer measures. Another one is the internal perspective or internal measures. Another one is innovation and learning perspective or measures. Then another one, or the last one, is financial perspective. So these are the four main perspectives in which an organization's strategic performance can be measured. For instance, if you want to assess the performance of an accountant, then there could be so many areas where you can assess the performance of an accountant. Maybe you can look at it in terms of his integrity. You can assess the person's performance on that area. You can also assess the person's performance on how he is able to use softwares to do the accounting works. You can also assess the person's performance on how he is able to cut down costs, how he's able to use innovative internal measures or control to check costs and all those kind of stuff. You can also measure the person's performance on how he's able to contribute to the financial performance of the organization. So you can look at it from these areas. The same applies to the balanced scorecard. According to the balanced scorecard, strategic performance of an organization can be measured based on these four areas. So when we talk about the first one, customer perspective, here you are measuring the performance of the organization in relation to how they are able to perform in relation to customer, how they are able to ensure customers are satisfied, how they're able to ensure that customers are loyal, how they're able to ensure that they are able to achieve more customers, that's the market share, how they are able to ensure that customers are not leaving the organization, that's churn rate, how they're able to ensure that customers are retained. So we have the customer point of measuring performance, and that is what we term as the customer perspective. Then we have the internal perspective. The internal perspective. And with the internal perspective here, we are more looking at how internal operations are being carried out as a way of improving the performance of the organization. For instance, we can look at the number of times we are able to win contracts or orders. Then we can also look at it in terms of cycle time, the number of hours or period that we use in producing a particular product. We can also look at the number of days it takes for us to serve our customers. We can also look at the number of units that we produce which go bad, that is defective units. So these are an aspect of the internal perspective of measuring the organizational performance. So an organization that is able to spend less time in solving customer problems or customer queries can be termed as performing. An organization that spends less hours in producing goods than another organization can be termed as performing. An organization that do not record defective products, like bad products, then we can say that that organization is also performing. If the organization is able to win contracts, external contracts, is able to win more customers, more contracts, then we can. So these are the internal measures that we are talking about. Then we can also talk about innovation and learning. Innovation and learning. And you all bear with me that innovation is very, very important. So here we look at revenue per employee. For instance, when we divide the total revenue of the organization by the total employee, it will help us to know why or how our employees are learning, how they are improving on their competencies and their experience. Then we can also look at it in terms of their productivity. You know, when employees' productivity grows, then it means that they are learning. It means that they are learning from their mistakes. It means that they are learning through experience. Okay. Then employee satisfaction. Okay, if employees are satisfied, that is also another way of measuring innovation and learning. Then their retention. We can look at the number of times the organization is able to develop new products, the number of ideas that the organization is able to gather within a particular period of time, the number of times ideas are converted into innovative product or new products. So these are way of measuring the organization performance in terms of innovation and learning. Then the last one is the financial metrics or measures. As accountants, we know that business organizations exist for profit. Now, if you are measuring the performance of an organization, so far as that organization is a profit making, you cannot take away the primary goals of that organization, which is profit. So, under the profit dimensions or the profit measures, we are looking at return on investment. We are looking at margins on units. We are looking at revenue growth, how our revenue is growing, whether it is growing at an increasing rate or at a decreasing rate, whether our revenue is growing but it is not growing on an increase rate. We can measure that. Then our cash flows. Cash flows. Here we are looking at the rare cash, the money that is coming in and the money that is going out. Are we having a favorable balance or we are not having a favorable balance? So that is the financial measures. So in essence, if you are asked about such a question, then the examiner expects you to identify these four areas. Then when you pick each of them, you tell us how you are going to measure that performance. So for instance, if you tell me that you are going to measure the strategic performance of the organization on the perspective of customer, then you should be able to tell me what indicators are you going to use in measuring the organization's strategic performance in terms of the customer. So here I'll be expecting to see you talking about the number of customers satisfied over the total number of customers served, then the number of customers retaining over the total number of customers that we have served. Then you have to also tell me the number of customers who are willing to be loyal, those who will continue to be buying from you irrespective of any other product. Then you look at these areas, and that will help you to know whether the organization is performing on the perspective of customer or not. So that is that of the balance score card. That is that of the balance scorecard. Now, another model that we can use in measuring the strategic performance of an organization is the performance pyramid. That is B. If you look at the slides, I've done it very clearly for you. Performance pyramid. And here, the concept of this model is based on the idea that an organizations operate at different levels. Okay, so if you have the slides, you realize that there is a model there like an organizational structure, and it is trying to tell you how performance is being measured. Here, the assumption is that organization operates in a different level. So we have the corporate level, we have the business level, we have the functional level, and let's say we have the operational level. So what it means is that if you are assessing performance of such an organization, the assessment must start from the bottom. What it means is that you must ensure that those at the operational level are really achieving their goals. If they are able to achieve their goals, then it will be very simple for the entire corporate level organization to also be seen performing. So in the measuring of the performance, it must start from the lower level. Then it moves to the middle level. Then it comes to the top. So once the lower level personnel are achieving their goals, then the middle level will be seen achieving their goals, which will translate into the corporate level. They also achieving their goals. So we are seeing the organization as operating at different levels. So if the lower levels are being monitored, resourced, and are able to achieve their targets, then the middle level will also be seen achieving their targets. Then it moves to the higher level. So each level has different concerns, but these should support each other in achieving the overall business objectives. So if you look at organizational structure, you can see that there is a consistent relationship between them. So if you look at the lower level objectives are normally defined by the immediate upper. So whenever they are able to achieve, then it means that the immediate upper has achieved, which is, let's say, the middle. Then once the middle level also achieve, then it will be seen as the higher level also achieving. So that is how the model seeks to assess the performance of an organization. Now, when you look at it, say that the model assumes that in a dynamic business environment, achieving strategic business objectives depends on good performance with regard to the following. Okay, one, customer satisfaction. So, according to the performance pyramid, the dynamism in the business environment and achieving strategic business objectives has to depend on a good performance in regards to the following. So if these areas are able to perform, then the organization will be able to perform strategically. That is customer satisfaction. That's a marketing objective. So at the marketing level, they must ensure that the necessary activities are being carried out to ensure that the external customers are satisfied. Once they are satisfied, then it will be translated into the higher level, which is the corporate level. They also perform it. Flexibility. Here we are looking at the flexibility objective relates to both external effectiveness and internal efficiency within the organization. So here we are looking at within the organization how flexible employees are in terms of their ability to innovate, in terms of their ability to employ competent resources or capabilities to achieve whatever they are supposed to achieve. So once the flexibility has been achieved, there is no rigidity. Employees are given the opportunity to make certain decisions and they are creative and innovative. Then they will be able to achieve the needed goals. Then we have productivity, which is also very, very important. Resource utilization is also an issue of concern that we need to look at how resources are being employed. Okay, we see that to be the focus on internal efficiency, much of which can be measured by financial performance. So if an organization is able to utilize their resources very well, then it will translate into performing financially. Why? Because if you're able to cut down costs of your operations, if you're able to ensure that you are minimizing waste, then it will be transformed into profits as you are saving costs. So if you look into the slides, you see some diagram there, like an organizational chart. Down there, you see external effectiveness and internal efficiency. Next, you see operations. On your immediate left, where the external effectiveness can be found, you see quality delivery. Then on your right, you see cycle time, waste. So here, the waste and the cycle time are what relate to internal efficiency. So when employees are very efficient, very competent, very experienced, then they can perform their task within limited time. That's the cycle time. So we are looking at the time that it will take for you to produce a particular product. And the quantity of waste, whilst an experienced personnel may not incur any waste, inexperienced person may incur so many wastes. So if you are able to perform here in terms of your waste cutting and limited time in production, then you will be very well productive. So productivity performance is measured based on the cycle time and waste, whilst customer satisfaction is measured based on quality and delivery. And flexibility operates within the customer satisfaction and productivity. So you should be flexible as an organization so that you'll be able to adapt to customer needs as and when their needs changes. Now, you must also be flexible in terms of your productivity so that you don't have rigid methods of production. So when there is advanced technology as can be used to produce, which can cut down costs and can make you produce within short possible time, you need to embark on that. That is the flexibility we are talking about. Now, under the customer satisfaction, it leads to market performance. So when we say you are performing on the market, then it means that you are able to satisfy customers. When we say you are performing on the financial, then it means that you are being very productive. That's why we say that you are cutting down costs in terms of your waste, you are cutting down costs in terms of limited time that you spend in producing. Then once you are able to perform on the market and you are able to perform on the financial, then your corporate vision is being achieved. So this organogram or chart is trying to explain to you how strategic performance can be evaluated using the organizational structure. And it based on the premises that organizational performance can be assessed based on different levels. That is from the lower level, middle level, and top level. Now, we move on to the third model that can be used in measuring performance so far as organizations are concerned. And here we have what we term as Fitzgerald and Moon building block model. In fact, according to these two guys, the model they developed shows some kind of significance of link, okay, between competitive strategy to their operations. So the strategy or the model tries to show some kind of linkage that organization's strategy has with their operations. So whatever strategy that you have will determine what must be done day to day. This enables the firm to understand if the services offered can help them achieve strategic objectives. So you see, you have a strategy and the strategy must be implemented. But you need to know that whatever you are doing has a significant link with your strategy. So that at the end of the day, you don't have a strategy going left and your operations going right. So they must all come together in a holistic manner so you can achieve the necessary performance target that you have achieved. So this model is trying to say that every organization's strategy must inform their operational activities, simple as ABCD. So if my strategy is differentiation strategy, then I should be working towards how to ensure that I come out with unique quality products, I come out with unique quality promotions, I come out with good employee package, I come out with there's something that will make my performance better. And it's boiled down to what we term as what your objectives, what your competitive strategy is. So your competitive strategy will automatically inform what must be done day to day, because at the end of the day, whatever you are doing must help you achieve the strategic goals of the organization. So if you are measuring your performance, you have to link it with your strategy against your day-to-day activities. Now, performance management systems have an important role because one, they show how well or how badly the organization has performed. So this model will help you as an organization to know whether you are performing well or you are not performing well in relation to achieving your strategic objectives. Two, it helps to identify where necessary improvements required. It helps you to identify where you need to improve and where you need not to do so. So according to the FedRAC and Moon, their way of measuring performance can be done based on these three items. The first one is dimensions, two is standards, the third one is rewards. So according to them, organizational strategic performance can be measured. And if you are measuring, you need to identify these three areas. And the first one is what we term as dimensions. And the second one is what we term as standards. And the third one is what we term as rewards. So let's look at them one after the other. Now, when we talk about dimensions, you see, according to them, they are saying that if you want to measure the strategic performance of an organization, first of all, you need to identify areas that you are going to measure. So maybe you identify an area like profitability, one, you identify an area like quality, satisfaction of customers, innovation, customer loyalty, cycle time, true time, customer loyalty. So you identify all these areas. Then you set a target. So after you have identified these dimensions, then the next one is what we term as standard. So standard is about setting a target. You set a target. Okay. So for instance, profit. What profit do you want to achieve? Do you want to achieve 1 million Ghana cedis? So you set a standard. Let's say to achieve 1 million Ghana cedis profit at the end of December 31st, 2022. This is the standard you have set for yourself. Why? You need to have a standard. The standard will guide you and will motivate you and will direct you to accomplish that. So let's say customer satisfaction. You can say that for every 100 customers served, only one of them must be dissatisfied. So that is your target you have set. So if you serve 100 customers, if at all anyone will be dissatisfied, it should be only one person. So that is the standards. So the standards is more like targets. Now, once you have set the standards, you must motivate the employees to accomplish those standards. That is very, very important. You must do what? Motivate them to accomplish those habits. And that is very, very, very important that you need to look at. So, how are you going to reward them? We have so many reward systems that you can also talk about. Maybe financial rewards and non-financial rewards. So, in exams, if you are asked about FedRAC and Moon, then you should be able to look at these three areas. You talk about the dimensions of the performance, and you have to give examples as pertain in the case that you have. Then you have to talk about the standards where you are looking at targets. Then finally, rewards. Rewards is so important because if you don't reward your employees, they may not live up to what you want them to live. So it is very, very imperative that as a strategic manager, you try as much as possible to provide some incentives, some packages that will drive them. For instance, training. Training is part of the rewards. Okay, giving them allowances. Okay, giving them allowances, giving them awards. So it could be financial and non-financial. Okay, recognition, recognizing them is very, very important. Sometimes we think we have employed them and we are paying them, so there's no need to recognize them. It is very, very important to recognize them as it boosts their morale, as it boosts their confidence, and it makes them highly committed to the cause of the organization. So these are the three areas. We talk about dimensions, we talk about the standards, which is the target, where you set a target as to what you want to achieve. Maybe you can say to reduce waste by 100%, or maybe for every product produced, there shouldn't be any defect. That could be your target that you want to achieve. So you set that standard. Once you have that standard, how do you ensure that you are able to achieve that standard? You must reward the employees. You must reward them. So you have to talk about some reward packages that you can provide to ensure employees work up to expectation. Yes, so that is that of the models for performance evaluation, strategic performance evaluation. That is that. Then we move on to organizational change and organizational culture. Yeah, this slide has very few issues to talk about so far as change is concerned. But after this slide, there is another slide that I will take you through, which details more on change. As we all know, organizational change is inevitable, and change is basically about a diversity that entities go through as the environments bring some kind of forces. We all know that most organizations have experienced some kind of changes as a result of the COVID-19 that we are all battling. There has been a lot of changes in organizations' pricing, marketing activities, even staffing, as most organizations are pushing more of their staff to part-time because they find it difficult paying them and other issues. So as we all know, change is something that we keep on saying is inevitable in an organization. But the most important thing you must understand is that the change will come. Whether you like it or not, it will come. But when it comes, how are you going to manage it to the success of the organization? That is very, very important. And that is what I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to use a particular model called McKinsey 7S model to explain to you how change can be managed. Apart from the McKinsey 7S approach, there are other models that I'm going to take you through, which will be in the other slides. So you just pay attention to what I'm going to talk about in this slides. After that, we will look at further information on the other slide. Now, if you look at McKinsey is one of the renowned institutions that normally come out with some frameworks and models that help us to analyze our internal and external portfolio and what have you. Last meeting that we had, we did something on McKinsey General Electric model, where they came out with a model that we can use to analyze portfolio. So this one is a model that helps us to manage change. So for every organization, if there is a change and you want to manage that change successfully, you can employ this model, which is called McKinsey 7S framework. If you look at the lecture notes, you could see a detailed information so far as the McKinsey 7S framework is concerned. It is called 7X because they are up to 7 and they all start with letter S. So somebody may find out why is it 7S? 7S because they are 7 and they all start with letter S. According to McKinsey, he divided the framework into two. We have hard and we have soft. So when we say hard, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that hard, it cannot be breaking. No, hard means that it is visible, it is explicit, it is something that you can easily see, okay, identify. But when we say soft, soft means that it's implicit, sometimes very inherent, and it's not easily for you to identify and see. If you enter an organization, sometimes it may be very difficult for you to know the skills of their staff. It will be very difficult for you to know the competencies of their staff, even the leadership style and the share values. These things are very inherent. They are implicit. You get to know when you are part or when you become part of the organization. That is when you'll be able to understand the style, the skills of the staff, the share values, and what have you. But for the organization structure, it is mostly identified in their documents and other stuff, the systems that they have in place, the strategy, all these can be very implicit. So in every organization, when you are managing change, what you need to think about is what strategy are you going to employ so you'll be able to manage the change. For instance, if there is a change and you want them to accept the change, then you need to compensate them. You need to train them. You need to minimize the losses. This is a strategy. Because if you want me to accept a change of computer instead of typewriter, then as a secretary who knows how to use typewriter but not computer, you must take me through some training on how to use computer so that I wouldn't feel risky in accepting that change. I know that I know how to use the computer, and for that matter, I'll be able to work with the organization. I'm not going to lose my job. But when it becomes so clear that you are going to lose your job because you may not know how to use the new technology, then you resist. So, as an organization, as managers, we need to have a strategy that can help us to minimize the resistance to change when we are managing change. Then we look at the structure. Automatically, when there is a change, it affects the structure of the organization. Now, most organizations are doing away with messengers. So it is limiting their layers so far as the organizational structure is concerned. Once we decide to embark or employ technology, then it put a limit on the layers of the structure. It means that we don't need many people. Now, most organizations are laying off most of the staff, limiting their organizational structure in terms of their layers because they think that they cannot continue paying many people, so they need to move into technology which will limit the number of people that they have. So all these are very, very important that you need to consider when you are managing change. So when there is a change, these things will be affected, and you need to know how it will fit so far as I'm concerned. Systems. You cannot manage change without putting in place some systems to check whether whatever you are doing is good or not. Like control systems. There should be control systems in place to ensure that whatever you are implementing can stick. For instance, if there is a change in our payment way, instead of tabletop, we are going to more electronic, then it means that there should be a new system that will ensure that that system can. Yeah, hello. Please, can you hear me? Hello. Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
kind.
please.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. All
sir.
right. All right. Good. Thank you. So, yeah. So, like I was saying, once there is a change, the structure will change, the system will change. Even the organizational strategy must also change. So, if let's say the organization uh, used to have a differentiated strategy where they were coming out with unique and expensive products. But now the market has become so competitive and choked, and they want to change from that differentiation strategy to, let's say, low price strategy. Then you cannot continue to be using that strategy. You have to change the way you do your things so that it can conform with the new strategy. Once there's a change in terms of the organizational staffing and what have you, then the structure will also change. In most cases, organizations do reorganization and what have you, and that brings a change in their structure. The same applies to their system. Then you come to the soft elements. Change will also bring a change in the staff in terms of training, in terms of the kind of people that we need. Sometimes, because of the COVID-19, today, many organizations employing new staff will be much concerned about people who can use the information technology, people who are abreast with technology. That will be the focus. So these are some of the things that we are talking about. Then the leadership style, share values. The values, if you look at the case, okay, when I was going through, I saw some values. I saw relationship marketing and what have you and what have you. So when we go through the case, we will be able to understand how change can also change these values so far as the organization is concerned, and how these values are so important to the strategic purpose of the organization. So that is that of the McKinsey 7X as a way of managing change. So if in exams you are asked to use McKinsey 7S as a framework to explain how change can be managed, then that is how you are going to look at it. You give examples and let the examiner know that once there is a change in the organization's strategy, then their day-to-day activities in terms of their focus, what they do, must also change. If you are moving from differentiation to low cost, then you have to also work towards how you can minimize costs, how you can enjoy economies of scale, so that you'll be able to price your goods relatively lower as compared to others. These are some of the things that you need to be saying so far as there is a change in the organization. Now we call something organizational culture. Okay, organizational culture. I've forgotten these guys, their name, but I can't remember a book called Organizational Behavior by Mullins. Mullins. If you read that book, you come across what we term as cultural web. Cultural web. The cultural web is just a model that is trying to summarize the various different cultures so far as organization is concerned. And when we say culture, organizational culture is defined as the way the organization does its things, how it behaves in terms of all its activities. And it consists of their beliefs, their customs, their values, and what have you. So the cultural web has given us a framework or a model in defining organizational culture. So every organization that you visit or you enter has about 6 different cultures. The first one is what we term as their stories. Their stories, okay, symbols, power structure, organizational structure, control systems, then finally rituals. So when we say stories, what does it mean by stories? Every organization has some kind of history. The case that has been given to you that we are going to discuss in the subsequent meetings, when you read the case and you read the introduction, you will be able to understand The history behind the organization that tells you the past events and circumstances that the organization has gone through. Every organization has gone through some kind of lifestyle, and that lifetime is what we term as a stories. And that story can be retold or retell to new staff, and that can re-energize them for them to understand where the organization is coming from. It will help them to even gain knowledge and understanding. That is why it is very important we keep issues that happen within the organization for future references so far as new staff join the organization. So these events, these past circumstances are what we term as the history of the organization or the story of the organization. And it is part of the organizational culture, and that will define how things is being done or will be happen in the organization. Then another one that we can think of is symbols. In fact, symbols, some of you might be confused about what the symbols is. The symbols has to do with maybe the company logo, their trademark. Okay, yeah, anything that demonstrate the company emblem, their dress code. All these are part of symbols. I know where you are working. If you are working with GRA, I know most of you are working there. If you are working with hospital, you have certain dress codes that you put on. If you're a nurse, why do they put on certain dress code? Why do you think the police personnel, the security personnel, they put on certain dress code? It is something that was symbolized, that will help people to identify where they belong and which organization they work with. And it is part of the culture. If you are working with a bank, sometimes you have some dress codes that you put on, and that symbolizes who you are and where you are working with. And that is part of the organizational culture, the way things are being done in that organization. Then power structure. See, in every organization, we call something the power tank. The power tank refers to as where the power lies. Okay, where the power lies. And that is where sometimes when there is two blocks, you see there will be some misunderstanding here and there. But here we are looking at who has the power to make final decisions. Every organization has who holds the final authority. And that is part of the culture of the organization. What it means is that you dare not to contradict the authorities in terms of what they say. That's why in an organization, whatever your boss tells you, you have to comply. Though you can make a suggestion, but if they tell you that from above, this is what we have agreed, you have nothing to say. You have to go by that one, and that is what we term as the power structure. Then organizational structure is also part of the culture, whether the organization has a flat structure or a tall structure, whichever way defines how things are being done. An organization that uses, let's say, flat structure may think or may believe that decisions must not delay, it must move faster, or maybe it also tells you that that organization is a small organization. Okay, so when you see an organization with such a structure, this is what you can deduce from, and that tells you how things will also be done. If you have organization with a tall structure, then it tells you that they believe in bureaucracies, they believe in scrutiny, where decision must pass through so many hands for verifications before it reach the final decision makers. Then another aspect of the culture is control systems. And here I will draw much on you, the accountant. You as an accountant, what are some of the control measures you have in place that help you to check waste in the organization? Auditing is part of the control systems. Receipts. Okay, these are all control measures that you accountants believe that it can help to minimize the rate at which money goes wrong. In the context of marketing and other areas, we can think of what we term as total quality systems. Total quality management systems. Another one is reward systems under the HR. These are things that are within organization and that define. Every organization has their own way of rewarding. Some organizations, they reward mostly non-financial, where at the end of the year, the best employee will be given a trip, okay, a package to go outside for holidays. Some countries too, they prefer money. Let's say every year, the best employee is given maybe some more. Organizations during your birthday, they call something 13th hour. Okay, your birthday, you get double salaries. Double salary. If you are paid 1,000, they'll give you 2,000. And you are in the financial institutions and you know all these things. That that is what is happening. Some organizations at the end of Christmas, they give them double salaries. Instead of taking 5,000, they can give them 10,000. And that is their reward system. And you cannot say that once it's here, it must be here. We are in the funds. You, the students, you always give us funds. And that's what we get. So we will always continue to enjoy the funds. Whilst you, the accountants, you continue to enjoy the money. All right. Then another one is what we term as rituals. Please, the rituals here is not about where you go and pour libation, but the rituals talks about routine, something that we do frequently. If you have worked in the bank before, you know, before they start, they meet and pray. Okay, and normally at the end of the work, they meet again and pray. This is a ritual. Okay, so these are some of the things that we are talking about as rituals. Routine activities, things that we do every day, which has become part and parcel of the organization. So ask yourself where you are working, what are some of the things and activities that you do every day, which has become part of the organization. You cannot be there without doing it. They are all part of the rituals, like meetings and what have you, workshops. They are all part of the rituals. I know for accountants, especially auditors and what have you, you normally go on retreat, workshops here and there, and it's something that you do frequently. That can be termed as rituals. So that is that for the two chapters. Any question? If there's any question, you can unmute yourself and ask any question if you have. Yeah, any question? Any question? Yeah, hello?
No question, please.
No question. Okay. All right. Then let's continue from our other slides. Yeah. So the other slides basically talks about change management strategies. And like I said earlier on, change is something that is inevitable. It's a diversity of an existing situation or circumstances. And it is something that nobody wants, especially when the change is going to create discomfort. But when the change is going to create something positive, then we all embrace it. We all embrace it. We are always ready to accept it. So one thing we need to understand is that how do we ensure that we minimize the resistance? That is very, very important in managing change. You need to ensure that you are able to minimize the resistance. It is only that can help you to be successful so far as the change is concerned. We have so many types of strategic change that we can think of.
On your network level, no. Or should go the top. Easy.
Yeah, so there are so many types of strategic changes: adaptation, reconstruction, evolution, whatever. These are not important to us. Steps in change management process. If you want to manage change, the steps. The first step is you determine the need for change. You determine the need for the change. You know, the essence of you knowing the need for the change is that it will help you to know what must be done so that you can ensure successful change. If the change is so important, then you will not manage it anyhow. You take your time and ensure that you have adequate grounds to be successful so far as the change is concerned. And the need for the change will also help you to prepare very well. If there's a need for you to provide some training or what have you, then you can do that. So you determine the need. Then you determine some obstacles. What you think are likely to disturb you. You have to identify all obstacles. Once you have identified the obstacles, and you know that this and that and that and that can serve as a block for you not being able to achieve, then you can uh, find ways to minimize those obstacles or alleviate them. Then once the obstacles have been determined, then you go ahead to implement the change, putting the change into practice, ensuring that you are investing in it to ensure you move on. For instance, if the change is that you want to introduce a new technology in the production of goods instead of using human beings, you just buy the machine and you move on with that. That's the implementation of the change. And the obstacle here, we know that people are going to resist because they are going to lose their job. So what do? You can find an alternative that will make them accept it or convince them about the benefit of the organization and the circumstances that there's a need for that. Then you must evaluate the performance of the change, whether the change has been successful or not successful. We have change levers, like clear understanding of the need for changes. You must understand, and you must communicate to all and sundry for them to know why there's a need for the change. Quality of leadership. Okay, the leaders must be of high quality, experience to take the affairs of the change. Commitment, clear vision, education, and what? Training. Effective communication. Communication is very, very important. Measuring system, reward system, skills of change agents, and what have you. Don't forget that sometimes in implementing change, you need some agents, some people who will be carrying the message alongside. You need to have people who you think they can convince others to accept the change without difficulties. Maxims to live by. In change management, one thing you must understand is communication, communication, communication. Communication is very, very key. And you must also continuously improve. Improvement is very, very important because when you implement the change, it might not be the best, but your continuous improvement of it will make it survive and it will be better. Keep trying until you get it right. Don't forget to celebrate your success. It's very, very important. Create ownership. Let employees own the change. Let them own. Let them understand. Let them see the change to be something that is so important that they cannot do away with it. You walk the talk. You must hold people accountable. And you must think outside the box. You must think outside the box if you want the change to be very, very successful. There are some forces of change. What normally influence change? There are so many factors that will bring change so far as organization is concerned. One is exploration of new technologies, okay, environmental dynamism, okay, competition, internationalization, reorganization, economic crisis. Ghana, we are experiencing crisis, whether you like it or not. Okay, and this crisis is as a result of external threats like the COVID-19, the Putin fighting Ukraine, and all those kind of stuff. This will put pressure on the economy, whether you like it or not. And this will bring some changes in organization. Some organizations are going to do some kind of retrenchment. Some are going to uh, uh, cut down the number of their staff. They are going to cut down some allowances, cut down the expenditures, and all those kind of stuff. Recruitment will be very difficult here and there, and all sorts of things. Those who were taking fuel allowances for now, I know some organizations are going to either scrap it or reduce the number of gallons you are taking within the month, and all those kind of stuff. All these are about forces of change. What is bringing that? Is a result of these hardship that we are going through. We also have steps of managing change, like education and communication, collaboration and participation, intervention, direction, and cohesion. Now, if you want to manage change, we are saying that the first thing is education and communication. Yes, you must communicate with them, make sure they understand the essence of the change, then educate them. You see, with education, they will come to realize that the change is something that they must all embrace. Now, you must also think of collaboration and participation. If you collaborate with them, you involve them in the decision making. Involve them in the decision making towards the change. And if you involve them, they will be willing to change. Then you bring some interventions like maybe you give them scholarship, training, maybe you give them some big money, those who will be going home, the redundancy, you give them big money to go and start their own business. And before they leave, you organize some entrepreneurial workshops for them as to how they can go and start their own businesses. And these are some of the interventions we are talking about. If you do all these things, then they will be willing to accept the change. Then you provide some direction, guidelines. If you do all these things and they still not accept the change, then you employ the last one called coercion. Coercion is mostly encouraged when all other methods of changing them prove futile. Now, there is some models that we need to look at if we want to manage change. This one is called Cortex Change Management Model. Cortex Change Management Model. Last time they asked a question on change management models. They asked about some models somewhere, and this is one of them. Cortex Change Management Model. According to Kotter, saying that if you want to manage change and manage it successfully, you have to go through some 8 stages. The first one is increase urgency. Increase urgency. Try to create some urgency of the change in the minds of employees. Let them be convinced that the change is now or never. The change is now or never. It is something that we need to embrace and accept it today. So you try to communicate with them about the danger of the company going through if they don't accept the change. Then you build the team. Okay? Understand that the change can be successful when you have change agents. We call them team. You build them, you give them the right skills, the right abilities, resources, so that they can champion the vision. You get the vision correct. That is what you intend achieving in future, so far as the change is concerned. The fourth one is you communicate. You communicate. You try to be transparent. Be open. Let them know why you think the change is key. It is very, very important that you let them know the essence of the change. Then you empower action, empower them. Okay, you get support, remove roadblocks, and collect feedback in a constructive way. So if you empower them, you give them the necessary support, the necessary assistance in the form of any training or what have you, then they'll be willing to embrace it. And that will be very, very important. You produce short-term goals. You produce short-term goals. Okay, you don't wait for the long-term achievement. If you are making any short-term wins, let them be aware. Communicate with them that we have achieved A, B, C, D because of the change, so that it will motivate them and energize them. Don't give up, because whether you like it or not, you are going to face some people who will still not believe in the change. So never give up. Make change stick. Make sure the change is going to be forever. Then this model, McKinsey 7S change management model, we have talked about that one, so I'm not going to repeat it. The McKinsey 7S is the same as what we discussed. Then we have other change management model. Other change management model. So the other model stands for 1, awareness for A, D for desire, K for knowledge, A for ability, R for reinforcement. So first of all, you create awareness. Let them be aware that there's going to be a change. Please don't let the change come as a shock. Don't let it come as a surprise. Surprise, no, this is not birthday gift. Create the awareness. Let them prepare their mind. Let them be conscious. When you announce the change to them unaware, they will never accept it. You even break their hearts. So communication, as we said earlier on, is very, very important. Then build their desire. Let them have the desire for it. How do you think they will have the desire? They will have the desire if the change is going to improve themselves. Okay? If the change is going to bring something positive to themselves, then they will have the desire. But if the change is going to be negative, then they will resist. Knowledge. How are they going to drive the change? Okay? Give them the knowledge. The necessary education must be given to them. Once you give them the education, they will have the ability to ensure the change becomes a success. And finally, you reinforce it. You keep on implementing it, irrespective of any obstacles. So that is what other model is also talking about. Kubler-Ross 5-stage change management model. So Kubler-Ross has also given us this model which we must look at. You know, this model is different from the others in a sense that it's 100% employee oriented. According to Kubler-Ross, his 5-stage model is 100% employee oriented. So it's more looking at how the change can be successful by looking at it from the context or from the point of employee. The first one is a denial. Okay, denial stage. You know, at any point when you announce change, employees will first of all will resist, because in most cases they know the change is going to bring something unfortunate to them. So that's the first stage. They will deny it. Then they move to the second stage, anger. They will be angry. They will be talking here and there. Okay? Then later, when they realize that, Charlie, they change, the people are talking about is serious, then they will think of bargaining. Okay, then let's sit down. If you want us to do ABCD, then we also want ABCD from you. So that is the bargaining stage. Then it gets to when we term as depression, when employees realize that bargaining is not working. Okay, depression, they get depressed, they get disappointed, and they lose faith when they realize that their bargaining is not on their favor. But when all efforts to resist fail, then employees decide to cope with the change. That is the acceptance. So, as managers, we should not believe that employees will embrace change right away. No. Sometimes they will go through some process and finally accept it as it is. When they realize that the change is something that is coming and they cannot run away from it. Then we have the last model, which is Lewin's change management model. And with this model, the model is one of the most popular and is effective change management models. And we can say that it helps organizations better understand organization and structured change. Okay, understand organizational and they can structure the change. This model consists of 3 main stages, which are unfreeze, change, and refreeze. So according to Lewin, if you want to manage change, the organization must go through these 3 stages. The first one is unfreeze, and this is the preparation stage where employers must get prepared for the change. The crucial step here is to enhance open employee communication. So at the unfreeze stage, as we said, is the preparation. And that is why I said that at this stage, the organization must be able to engage employees. They must be able to review and analyze the consequences of the change and how they think presenting it will increase acceptance. Okay, so if they are able to dialogue and engage with employees lengthily, and they are able to understand the position of employees, and they factor it into the change management implementation, then employees too will be willing to accept it, because after all, they want something better for themselves and for the organization. So it is up to the management to be able to communicate it properly for them to accept. Then after the unfreeze, we move to change. This is the stage in which change gets implemented. So we are looking at the situation where the change occurs. The implementation of the change happens. And finally, we look at refreeze. And here is the stage in which change is accepted and employees go back to their routine. So the refreeze means that when employees become conscious and they also begin to accept that the change has come to stay, whether we like it or not. So we must accept it. We don't have any other thing than to accept. Then it means that the change has become permanent. That's why we say we are refreezing it. Refreezing means that you are making it stick and become permanent forever. So that is what Lewin was also talking about so far as the change is concerned. So each stage has something that managers must do. It has something that managers must do. For instance, when you are talking about the change, how do you ensure the change is being implemented? So you have to talk about the structure, staff, system. So you can go back to the McKinsey 7X. Okay, so you have to work on all those things to ensure the change becomes a success. So that is that of change management and the models. So I'll urge you to be reading other stuff so far as change management is concerned. Thank you very much for your attention and audience. Unmute yourself and ask questions if there is any question. Thank you. Any question? My boss, Richmond. IT man. Boss, is there any question from your members? There's no question. Okay. Then if there's no question, we will call it a day so that I can find. Hey, yeah, hello.
Hello, sir. Please, I joined in quite late. If you can summarize the balance scorecard for me. I missed that session.
I don't know. I think IT man has been able to record it. Senior Mai, were you able to record? Okay, then you share it on our platform for us, okay? So, madam, he will share it for us, okay? Sir Richmond, you wanted to say something?
Thank you very much.
Facebook. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
You are not on it too.
Yeah, then maybe. All right. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So
Thank you.
Put on the YouTube so you can share. Thank you very much, my IT man. Fantastic IT man. God bless you. All right. If there's no further question, then we will call it a day. But we are meeting tomorrow again. We are meeting tomorrow again, this same time. And we are going to use this same link. Are you okay? Are you getting it?
Okay.
Yes. We are meeting tomorrow, yes, God willing, 5:30, same time, and we are going to use the same link. Perfect. I'll be expecting you to join. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.